Hi everybody and welcome back to the painting channel. Today it's another ink and wash, so let's roll that intro and let's see how we get on. Hi everybody and welcome back. As I said at the start, I'm going to be doing another ink and wash for you today, and it's a lovely pier along the Sussex coast at Hastings. And I was there about a year or so back and I did a lot of plein air work there with some friends of mine, and I felt that it would be nice to revisit that scene, but this time use a little bit of masking and a little bit of ink and play around with some washes and just see what we come up with. So without further ado, let's get on. Hi everybody and welcome. Now I'm using a 2B leaded and 2mm thick mechanical pencil, but almost any pencil will do as long as it's about 2 to 4B, and you saw me just marking in a very high horizon. So I'm just drawing what is the lovely Hastings Pier at the top of the page almost, so I want very little sky. The drama for this painting is of course in all that lovely seashore between the bottom of the page and the top part there where the pier is. So that's what I'm concentrating on, and that's the dynamic. It's great to add figures to any painting, but in this case they really are quite special because they add scale to the whole scene, but above that they actually create a narrative to the painting, a reason for being and a story, so it's really quite important. Now I'm using some blue drawing gum from Pebeo, and I've decanted it into a small medical pot and I am using a sort of matchstick trimmed down to deliver it to the paper. Now I'm scratching, I'm drawing, I'm playing around with this. I'm not using a brush to put this on, so some of the marks are hit and miss, but that's what the beauty of this is, that I'm not trying to create a absolute perfect mark. And I'm using an old toothbrush and I'm going to splat this now all over, and this will hold back the white paper and create those lovely little sparkles which will be my stones and bits of debris on the foreshore. The ink I'm using is a waterproof black ink, which is Ultramarine ink from Pure pens, and the delivery system in this case is my trusty old sawn up chopped down matchstick, and I'm just putting bits of ink over and putting pretty much, I'm just doing the pier and the superstructure and the foreshore right along that beach there towards the pier. Very little else is actually going to be inked up. Now this is almost an ink and wash, but it could be construed as the ink is almost secondary to the painting, and I find that quite interesting as a concept because you can actually ink some parts up. You don't have to ink the whole thing, and you can still call it an ink and wash, or can you? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. The process is of course what's most important of all. Now the thing is that you've got to get this about right. You don't want to overdo it. I'm putting the groins in, and I've suggested those where they go right up into the shingle bank of the beach, and they will have some form of reflection but not in ink. So I've allowed this to totally dry, and I'm using my Aquario Escoda, which is one of the Joseph Spuvik signature brushes. It's a big brush, it holds a lot of wash, a lot of water, and that will do the greater part of this painting. So I'm using my two blues, that's a mix of cobalt and some cobalt and ultramarine, and I'm also adding in a little bit of Aureolin. Now the Aureolin is not pure Aureolin, not the original one, because that can change color, but this is Aureolin Modern, which is a schminker color, and I'm running that down into and around the area of the pier. Now there is a little give on the ink I noticed at this point, but not too dramatic. I come back in with some of my blues into the sky as well, and all of this is very lightly washed in. Now it's a little bit more than tea, but it's not very thick paint. I've added in some magenta to give a lovely depth to the foreshore. It's where the sea and the sand are starting to come together and you're getting a slight different color. and then I am going to come across here and add more. Now this is thicker paint. When you do come across a wash which is still wet, if you're going to do that, fine, but actually add more pigment. There are 3 layers just gone in there. Each time I added more pigment. Now what I did on the sky here, I made a silly boo-boo, and I actually dropped some clean water and really pushed the paint everywhere. I tried to recover it with another layer of blue and yellow. It didn't really want to work out, so the only thing I could do is literally turn it upside down, backwash it, and get rid of that. Now it did make for a very, very pale sky with almost just a staining on the paper, but at the end of the day it was a risk I ran, and I think it paid off, so I was quite happy. And you'll see at the end of the painting the final outcome for this, so I don't think it was bad at all. But the paint is still wet, and I've added some thicker colors of my blues and my violets, and I'm using my spray bottle. Now I'm using a bit of my oranges and reds to come in and create a nice soft run of orange, which will be the sand highlights way back up there in the distance. You can see the yellows, you can see the orange and the reds just sort of splitting up as they come through there. But I think it gives it a lovely warm, cool divide in the painting, but the whole of it is softened. The whole of it, I am using lots and lots of water spray just to run it down and let it fuse gently. Predominantly my mixes for the darks here are Paynes Grey, and either tinted with a bit of blue in certain cases and also reds in others. Now at this point the paper was still quite damp, so it allowed me to add an extra layer of colour to the water. Now I made it slightly thicker so that it would not push or create cauliflowers, and always bear that in mind. If you're going to work over an area of painting that is still damp, then you must make sure that your subsequent colour mixes are stronger with much less water involved. Here I'm putting in some blue also into the sea, so I'm going from the violets to the blues and also making additional colour on the further horizons. Now that started to bloom into the sky, but I was able later just to wash that back a little bit. I softened some of the effects with a spray bottle and allowing that paint to run down, and making sure that as I do it this way, it had that beautiful run. It had that organic growth, which I really enjoyed. By using a spray bottle, you create that lovely organic feel to the movement of your paint. I added a bit of color into the shadow side of some of the little waves that are coming in, and again I softened them into the surrounding colors. Now I've made sure everything is absolutely dry before I carried on, and as that little script comes up, please don't do what I'm doing now. I did not think about it before I did, and I sort of just started using my fingers on the paper. It really is a no-no. Use paper towel. It will save you leaving grease spots or marks and preventing you adding subsequent color later on. Now, what painting with sand and stones could not be complete without some splats, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm using some warm ones made up of dark Paynes Grey and orange, and some cooler ones with just maybe a bit of Paynes Grey, maybe a bit of blue in them, but I'm varying the marks. I'm trying to make them very, very fine the further away or further along the beach that they go. Right up there, I don't want big splats, I just want little fine marks. So that's what I was taking care of, and whilst that was being done, I was adding in some of the little flopsome gypsum bits and pieces that wash up on the shoreline. But I think it really is quite exciting because you've got the lovely whites from the applied masking fluid that's now removed, plus the darks, and it creates that lovely sort of wet sand and the debris and the stones and pebbles. You don't want to try and identify all of them, just some of them. Okay, so now everything else is dried off, and I'm starting to hone in and the final part of this painting where I'm putting the figures in. These are the I's and T's, the details. Okay, now I'm changing down to a much smaller detailing round brush and painting in the figures. Now, it really is important to take a lot of care when you're doing this, although there's no colour as such in the figures because they are almost silhouetted by the intense light behind them. Nonetheless, their shape is very important. If you want them to look authentic, you have to take your time. Also, the figures in the far distance here are being added, and the head heights in theory should be pretty much spot on. I think mine are a little off, but not enough to worry. I'm putting the reflections of the groins that are in the distance in right now, and I'm adding a little bit of detail. I noticed that there was a bit of a reflection to one of the buildings from the pier, so that's going in at this time. And then I am sort of looking around to soften some of these reflections into that water, and it's that intense dark against the light that really punches out the sense of light in your painting. Now I'm sort of setting up and putting in the reflections for the two figures. I'm putting in two dark marks, and then I'm putting in some water and some softer wetter paint to just create that lovely soft transition. You can see how I sort of took a little bit of pigment off so that that was a very, very soft reflection in the shallow water. I'm adding in some details of the waves now. They're not big waves, they're just very, very tiny little wavelets more than anything else, but they do have a bit of definition, and I do need to observe that, and that's what's happening right now. The technique here is not to use too much water in the paint. It's almost dry brush, and I'm scratching it on, scumbling it over the previous surface, but it's just depositing enough pigment to create the sense of those thicknesses of water at that point. And I'm running it all the way up into the distance as well. A little bit of shadow around the feet and to darken up the area around the figures, and that really does bring in the light as well. That little bit of white paper that's still reflecting that light is really now quite intense. I always say, when you want something to appear lighter, make everything around it appear or paint it darker. Here I tried to add some more white splats with gouache. Now the fact that you've got to add a little bit of water to do that really makes the gouache quite weak and it dries quite grey. So you could have eliminated that process by adding more masking fluid right at the start to create that. But where I do need the white gouache, of course, is in some of the little tweaks here, little highlights on the figures, on the surf around their feet and on their shoulders and other areas. And that's where you use the neat gouache on the tip of your rigger and just to put that in. I also finally just decided to put a little darkening shadow underneath the pier. It, I think, needed that, although I wasn't quite sure if it should have done, but I think it worked out. And with that, it's all done. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I do hope you'll give this one a go. And don't forget, the reference is free to download off my Patreon. Go check it out. And in the meantime, take care, have fun, stay safe. See you next week. Bye bye. Okay everybody, well, I had a whole lot of fun doing that little painting, and I really do hope that you enjoyed the processes that made it happen as well. Now, as always, my reference for this painting will be over on my Patreon at Paul Apps Artists. Pop on over there, download it and have a go at this one yourself. I really do hope you do. And if you do, then don't forget to put it up on our Painting with Paul Apps page on Facebook, and let's all see it and let's enjoy your efforts. And while you're over on the Patreon, then why not take a look around? There are so many new things happening. There is so much on there already. A great big back catalogue of work to enjoy and get something from, and a Facebook community page as well. So it doesn't cost you anything to look, and I'd love to have you on board and welcome you as my latest patron should you wish to do so. That would be awesome. And if you've liked this video, then please give it a big thumbs up. Thank you so much if you do that, because it really tells YouTube that my channel is worth promoting, worth pushing out there, and so many more people trying to learn to paint get to see the content that I'm creating for you, and hopefully for many more people. And if you're not a subscriber, then please click that subscribe button, click the bell icon, and click the notifications. It tells you each and every time I upload a new video, which is always on a Friday at 3 p.m. GMT. Now the thing is that it really does help the channel, and as I say, it doesn't cost you anything to do that. But above all, give me some comments. I love reading them. And if you've got any ideas on things that you'd like me to do in a future video down the road, then please put them in your comment section. I'll answer those, and I look forward to reading them. What else can I say? Well, just literally enjoy your painting. Enjoy having a go at this one. Put it up on the Painting with Paul apps page. And in the meantime, I wish each and every one of you a very happy day. Stay safe wherever you are. Happy painting. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. See you next week. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the water. Here we go. Start again. Today, I'm going to be doing some ink and wash. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. Start again then. Thank you, channel. Today, I'm going to be doing. Oh, it's a little bit fiery. Start again then. Sorry. It's another ink and wash, so let's see what's. No. Let's see what. I have a little play around with an image from Hastings. Yeah, I do. Start again then. Paul Apps Artist. Check it out. Freely for you to download at free for you to download. Totally free. No charge. Look at it, see what you know. I was doing so well. Happening on my Patreon right now is pure watercolor. Pretty much there are a couple of early oils on there, but it's pretty much all watercolor now. It is, honest.